this path believes in animism, which is everything is of great spirit. Everything is alive. The river has a spirit. The trees have a spirit. Not only that, but we can communicate.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to How the Wise One Grows. Today's episode goes deep into the dark and into the light because we're speaking with Ashley Coleman, a certified shamanic energy medicine practitioner, Reiki Master Teacher, yoga instructor, soul growth mentor, and a lifetime spiritual seeker, about what shamanism is. We talk about the ego, the spirit, the soul, and how we can turn our pain into our purpose. But before we get started, let's take a moment to land here together with 3 deep breaths. So just take a moment to notice where your body connects with the earth. Soften your shoulders down the back. Take a big breath in and exhale, let it out. Inhale, fill your chest, fill your belly with air. Exhale, open your mouth, let it all go. Again, inhale. Exhale. One more inhale. And exhale. Return to where your body makes contact with the earth. And you can slowly open your eyes as you return to this space. So as we land here with listeners, do you mind giving us all a bit of a background about what shamanism is and what the foundational beliefs of shamanism are?
Absolutely, yes. We're going to offer everybody another deep breath. Why not? That was a beautiful intro for us all. So there's a million different kinds of shamanism. There's lots of different kinds of shamans. This is just a piece of the puzzle through my own experience. Shamanism is earth medicine. Some people describe it as a feminine earth medicine tradition. So it comes from indigenous cultures. It's the spirituality that predates religion, if you will. It is, for example, in a tribal culture where everybody has a role, there's a shaman. And shaman just means bridge between worlds. So it's somebody who helps people die, helps people be bored. There's like a million roles, different kinds of shamans. So this is like a massive topic. I'm just talking about it from my little bit of experience in both studying and practicing and living, really, walking this lifestyle, this path. And for example, there's like jungle shamans and ocean shamans, and they all have different ways that they contribute to society. It's not a special hat, like, oh, you're great and you're special. I always say we all have special hats. So it doesn't put you above anybody or anything. It's not some special title, or it's a responsibility to the spiritual well-being of a community. And I love this example. So I think it's the jungle shamans where the shaman in the tribe would track. So we're trackers, would track where the buffalo would be for the hunters the next day. So they're tracking the future and tracking the past and mapping the invisible world to give incredible healing tools, wisdom from different worlds, and things to benefit society. I always say, it's great to talk to angels and it's great to go up and have these incredible experiences. Yet, what is the point of journeying if we don't create a healthier planet today? So earth medicine is about how you're walking today. It's all about relationship and really being in right relationship with food, with sex, with your friends. It's about your relationship to these different aspects of life here. It's not about let's go away from the world and let's transcend the human experience. It's similar to Tantra in that let's ground, let's walk in beauty and in power on the earth. So that's like a short little gist of shamanism. The path is earth medicine. It's walking in beauty on the earth. And the task of the shaman is to see beauty where others see chaos. That's my teacher, Alberto Villoldo. To see beauty where others see destruction. To hold a vision for a healed world.
I love how deeply what you're naming is about being rooted in the now. Like, it's not about escaping the pain that's present in this world today. It's about, like you said, building that bridge and healing in this now moment. And again, finding the beauty in all the small things. So to me, it sounds like there's a great deal of mindfulness that is at the core of it, because it's about rooting us in the here and now. And if there's one of the yoga sutras, I think it's the Bhakti sutras, I can't remember which verse, but it's like the verse is stop and make everything sacred, because this moment's divine too. So in finding that deep connection to the moment, you are connecting to that deeper spirit.
Beautiful.
And something I wanted to kind of lean into, you said that a shaman's responsibility is to the spiritual well-being of a community. And I feel like that's something we lack so much in the world today. There's actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the Emerald podcast, but they had an episode about we can't psychologize everything, and the importance of spirit and the unseen and these other realms that we often in the West don't allow ourselves to tap into so much. So I was wondering if you could lean into a bit about like what spiritual well-being means. And you also spoke to like the role in which we are all connected to one another and everyone and everything, and how spiritual well-being can relate to helping us find that interconnection.
Totally. I'd love to start. Thank you. And what a powerful quote. I love that you're bringing this yogi energy into this space. I'm such a yogi at heart. So come on, bring it. I love it. A gorgeous quote. What did you say? Stop and
consecrate everything, which is like stop and make everything sacred.
Yes, I love that, Holly. Gorgeous. So yes, I'd love to share some of the core beliefs in my heart in terms of shamanism, and then lead into that role of leading people to awaken from the spiritual amnesia of separateness. And returning to, I think that was your question, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Great. So, and again, there's a million different kinds. There's plant shaman. There's people who, I'm a purist. And I've sat with plant medicine. I also have a history of addiction. So I love clarity of consciousness. And some people really rock out with the plant medicine world, and it's amazing for them, and I honor and I bow. For me, I really value nothing. Meaning, I like to have just me, just my consciousness. You know, me and some coffee, I can get down with some chocolate, but I really value, and I work in the addiction world. And so a part of my path is having a clear mind that's not being influenced by substance. So just to clarify, because a lot of people are familiar with plant shamans, and it's just a whole thing that we don't have to dive into, but just to say that. So in essence, this path believes in animism, which is everything is of great spirit. Everything is alive. The river has a spirit. The trees have a spirit. Not only that, but we can communicate. We can talk to nature. And I have to share the story of my teacher, Alberto Villoldo, one of my teachers. He studied with the Peruvian shamans for 25 years. He got permission from them to bring these teachings to the West because we need these teachings, many of us, all of us on some level. So the tradition comes from the Laika people, which is from the high Andes Mountains in Peru. So the mountain shamans, the seers. So it's been westernized in a respectable way to honor how they do things, and then to make it digestible to Western shamans, if you will. So there's been a permission. Alberto is seen as a bridge between the West and the ancient. So it's really, really cool. So he tells this story in his books. He's an incredible writer. He tells this story when he stepped into the rainforest. Before he stepped in, he heard this symphony of sounds and singing and life and breath and the symphony. And when he stepped in, everything went silent. They didn't recognize Alberto. He was still in his wound of separation, which is the word sin. The word sin, I believe, and what I've studied, is separateness. Separateness from your nature, forgetfulness. We all have experienced it, most of us, that spiritual amnesia. It took him, he said, like 20 or some years for him to walk into that rainforest and then in nature to recognize him. And he said, because the shamans here, they're like, they know that you have forgotten. And then Alberto was like, no. And he went and found boa fat from somebody and smeared boa. He's like, it's because of my toothpaste. It's because of my deodorant. And he smeared all this boa fat on him and did all these things. And it still went silent when he stepped in. And he said it took him like 20 years for the spirits in the forest to recognize him as a part of that heaven on earth.
When he went in the forest, like, what was that communication like when it became present?
Let's channel Alberto and ask him. I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure, love. What a great question, though. I have no idea what that difference was in terms of who he was. It's really about who you are being, who you are vibrating as, and your level of spiritual remembrance. It's like none of awakening is new per se. It's a path of, like the Tower card. It's like, what other piece can I pull away? It's revealing that essential self, which is very Zen Buddhism, which I love Zen. But one of the core beliefs is animism. When I travel somewhere, I acknowledge the guardians of the ground, of the land, the animal guardians, the spirit guardians. When I go float down the river, I don't just jump in the river. I say, hi, hello. I acknowledge. And the idea is to acknowledge the guardians, to acknowledge the spirits, to acknowledge the inner workings of this life that we don't necessarily see with our eyes, but that hold immense influence over this dimension.
When we don't see it with our eyes, especially in the West, when everything is so empirical and data, when we can't tangibly have something to show, people devalidate it, but that doesn't mean it isn't there.
Yeah.
Because I wholeheartedly believe we all feel things, that there is this deeper thread that's alive in everyone and everything, but in the West it gets so discredited. We are taking a brief pause to share a recent review with you. So first of all, anytime you leave a review and rate this podcast, it means the world and it helps a lot. And I promise you, I read every single one of these reviews and they keep me going when I'm questioning what I'm doing. So thank you for filling my tank. So this is a recent review about our episode on people pleasing, episode 67 with therapist Justine Carino. And this listener shared, wow, this episode was so enlightening. Setting boundaries which are healthy for self and others. A great listen. Thank you so much for this review. If you haven't checked out that episode with Justine, 10 out of 10 recommend. And if you haven't left a review yet, I 10 out of 10 recommend that too. All right, back to talking to Ashley. Could you lean into the importance of oneness as it relates to spiritual well-being? Like, why is it important to reconnect to this oneness as a community?
I heard this from Matt Kahn. Some souls come into this world really connected to oneness. You could say they have an open crown chakra or they're empaths, but for whatever reason, some souls come in with an understanding of interconnectedness. Like I used to think shoes had emotions. And now I'm kind of circling back like, hey, I used to, feel like everything was alive and had emotions because I would live my life through emotions. So it's interesting because, first of all, when we are forgetfulness and oneness, we'll abuse the earth, point blank. When we forget oneness, we hurt others without realizing that we're hurting ourselves. What we do to the Mother Earth is what we do to our bodies. So it's dangerous to stay. It's like spiritual amnesia can be a pass-through, right? Because a lot of us have had that, We suffer, we go through all those dark nights, and then we have some sort of awakening into the nature of reality, which whatever path that calls us in, or whatever outlet we experience that through, hopefully. I know there's many people that have that experience. And we don't attune when we don't remember oneness. Attunement means you're feeling into other people. You're feeling it. And it is a feminine biological thing. Like literally our brains are wired to see connections between things. So some souls will come in and have a little bit more of an experience with that, and they'll actually be almost destroyed by the world because they feel fucking everything. And those are the people that I serve and empower because those are the healers. We're all healers. I don't want to I don't want to separate them too much, but the people who are almost destroyed by reality can feel the pain of this world. And their task, and this is Matt Kahn, this was really eye-opening, their task is boundaries, is to separate, to individuate, to develop that solar plexus chakra of I am, independent of reality. So it's like we got to dance with both. And then the people that come in striving for money and striving for business and I'm going to dominate and I'm going to go above other people, they've totally lost their ass and totally forgot that what they do to somebody else, they also do to themselves. They're probably pillaging the earth. And their task is to awaken their hearts and to actually be unnumb. Carl Jung says it, there's no coming to consciousness without pain. We got things to do. And what's interesting, Holly, is that oneness is a biological experience. It's about activating the new brain. This is Alberto Villoldo now in my shamanic training. It's about acting the neocortex and the prefrontal cortex, which feeds on fats. If we are in the limbic system, we're going to be fighting for our lives and in anxiety every day. And if we are activating the higher brain functions, we can actually have the experience of oneness. So the body is greatly involved. What we eat matters. What we watch matters. It's all connected.
When you were pulling out like this element of pain, I really wanted to lean into something you speak to a lot is like, how can we turn our pain into our purpose? And how can we not get subsumed by the pain, but rather like attune to it? Like we can feel it, but it's not, we can still hold our gravity in it.
Absolutely. Yep. Beautiful. So from my own experience, my greatest suffering has led to my greatest wisdom. I feel like your core wound is your direct route to your mission and your joy.
I completely agree.
And for me, holding space for myself was something that I really learned and am learning. So that, and it's ruthless. I get real fiery when I talk about this because it's unconditional. My binge eating and my issues with food that went on felt like freaking forever, but I think it was just a couple years. I received a gift in that cycle. Every painful cycle is trying to gift you something. And I spent so many moments of my life battling the part of me that was binge eating, battling the part of me that was getting high every day and all day. I know patterns, and I know the feeling of not being able to get out, of feeling stuck. So if anybody's listening, please tune in because you are not stuck, my love. anybody's connecting into patterns and cycles and things. So after battling myself and realizing that, oh, that didn't work, I realized that I'm going to try on a new perspective. I feel like enlightenment is a perspective. It's a way of viewing life, and you suffer when you think against yourself. So I realized that I was in a lot of pain, and I stopped fighting myself with swords, and I started to fall in love. And I started to say, what's the gift? If it's still with you, it's not done blessing you. What is the gift? And I started to invoke power. I started to invoke answers. And I started to change the way that I thought about the pattern. So anyways, the gift I learned in that pattern was unconditional self-love. That means it's ruthless. It is like tiger ruthless, like mama bear chowing down on a threat to protect her baby bears. Like it's big. And I learned that unconditional love is loving without conditions, which means if I binge eat, I have to love myself. Whatever I do, because it's the judgment that's the hook. I learned, I'm like studying this. Judgment, bad, it's a hook. In some behaviors, we do need to shift, right? Like heroin, like, I'm not saying like keep doing it. I'm just saying a perspective shift. Some part of you is needing to be loved, period. And the one in you that is screaming out and judging and shaming, that's the first to be loved. Again, Matt Kahn told me that through one of his teachings, changed my life. I put down the sword and I fell in love. We are conditioned to go against ourselves. That's the freaking formula that we're given, many of us. And so it's rebellious to love yourself. Wild, right? It's rebellious to set clear boundaries, even with the people you love. So turning your pain into your purpose means going on a journey of alchemizing your wounds and making love to them and sitting in it. I was just talking about this today with the addiction center, the beautiful women that I get to support in that center. So many of us want to feel better. We 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 want to feel better. But shamanism says sometimes we have to go into the underworld. And I want to be mindful when I say that, because have a therapist, have a guide, have a friend, have a mentor, do your research. Don't go jump into your underworld without, the light of God. Like
with support, we all need that.
Exactly. But shamanism says there are great gifts of humanity where many people fear to go. And that's what I do in my practice. I journey with people. Like, take my arm. Let's do this. Let's journey. Let's travel. I'm going with you. Mm-hmm. I have my flashlight, my little headlamp. And the results that happen when we work at that level of invisible world, they can change your life like this. Because we're not chipping away. Chipping. We're going to the source. We're going to where it began. What lifetime did this start? Where's the part of you that's lost? Shamanism is a direct path of healing. It's not quick, hurry up. It's let's go to the source. So in terms of pain to purpose, the next task is go out and teach it. Literally go out and tell people, how'd you do it? You had 10 failed marriages and then met your soulmate. How'd you do it? You had this addiction and then you've healed it and you're healing it. How'd you do it? We've got to share the medicine. Tell anybody who wants to listen with consent, right? It's like, build it and they will come. Teach this to others. I tell the ladies today, I'm like, go teach this. The act of dropping in and down. Oh, you want to feel better? You want to get happy? Go visit sadness. Go down. I'm completely here with you now. That's what I tell the emotions. So one key element is unblending. So we have to recognize that there is an inner being that doesn't suffer. There is an inner being that's holding space. So there is the God in you, if you will, and then there's like the pain body. And they're not separate, but I have found it extremely helpful to unblend them Because when I go journeying down, I speak to the pain like it's an entity, like it's a friend. And you and I talked about this in the coffee shop. I just remembered. So yeah, I feel like you have a similar process of unblending and really meeting that energy. Like, for example, sometimes there's a pain body activation. It's just an example. And then you go searching instead of trying, I need to feel grateful and I need to feel better. That's all fine. But sometimes it can be harmful.
Yes.
To the self, where we just need to fucking blanket in a bath and we need to cry for a while, you know?
Yeah, we're just going to make it worse the more we resist it. And by just saying like, it's not there, or it's great all the time, that other thing is just going to grow and grow. We have to tend to the wounds that are there. And I think what you said, like, so much power comes when we start to be willing to be with the root of it and heal it and befriend even the dark parts of ourselves. And I think what you're speaking to, it reminds me a lot of internal family systems, like seeing all the parts of ourselves and knowing at like the core of all these parts is like that big, wise, kind soul, you know? They're all just trying to protect you and to keep you safe and looking for love, but they're not always doing it in the most effective way. Absolutely. And we so often are taught like that part of me is bad, that judgment you were speaking to before. But when we can meet it with radical acceptance and radical self-compassion, that's when we can start to embody oneness that we started this conversation with. Because how can we be whole or connected to oneness with other things if we're not even willing to connect with the wholeness of who we are, the good parts and the bad parts? But by neglecting the bad parts, you're directly neglecting your ability to tap into oneness and wholeness.
And even to bounce off of that, even the word bad and good can be a sticky path. Because, you know, it's like if you demonize something, you create a demon, right? If you say it's wild how powerful we are in that way. I love the language that you use. And I love everything you just shared. And to complete what I was sharing on in terms of an example of that, there could be a part that's, you know, in pain. And if you go in and start to talk to it, and like you and I were talking about at the coffee shop, we're at that shop, maybe it says something like, you know, I'm pushing away your dreams because I'm protecting you from loss. So I love that you said that they are helpful. I don't believe in self-sabotage. I think the part of you that might be pushing away your dreams thinks that your dreams are going to kill you and it's unsafe and you're going to get killed at the stake. And that is literally who I support, are the people who have really big callings and have past life memories. You know, it's like some level in this lifetime is about visibility, you know, is about going against the crowd in a public way, is about leading, you know, other people into their own power. And so in order for us to be a fuck yes on all levels to that, sometimes we have to go into the underworld and piece together some past lives and discharge some of that resistance, that fear that associates me and visibility with death or loss. And that's a big pattern I see. And I've seen in myself and I've seen in clients.
One more brief pause in this episode to take a moment to share about the organization that our dream team supported in the month of September. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Dream Team, it is a group of listeners who choose to support this podcast financially every month, and you can join them for as little as $3 a month. And not only does your contribution help to allow this podcast to exist, but I'm also donating a portion to support community causes. So for September, I decided to continue supporting Hawaii by making a donation to the Surfrider Foundation Hawaii chapter. So thank you for making that possible. And again, you can join the Dream Team by clicking the link in the show notes and support not only this podcast, but community causes that you care about. All right, back to the episode. So as we were talking about this concept of oneness, being at like the root, seeing the spirit and all these parts and everyone and everything, it's also important, like you said, to like unblend things too, right? It's all one, but it also, there are things that we can unblend. And I'm curious, I feel like these things get misconstrued, and you spoke to this a bit about the soul and the spirit and the ego. So I guess, what are those three things from your perspective, and how are they a little bit one? How are they a little bit blended? And then how can we unblend them? And I guess, why is that important work to do in your healing journey and turning your pain to your purpose?
Oh, yes. Wow. Let me start here and clue me back into your question if I forget about it. This feels like an important precursor. So winged alchemy, what's alchemy? So alchemy is when it's a caterpillar. It's literally the same thing. You go in as one substance. You create a safe space, a cocoon. You light your candle. You create your cocoon. We do this hundreds of times, thousands of times in one lifetime, probably, hopefully. So you go in as one substance, and then you turn into goop. You dissolve. You go into pieces. You piece out. You separate your past lives. Separation is sacred and holy. We're in separate bodies for a reason, right? We're literally walking as separate beings. We're here to individuate, which is to be our full selves in the world, independent of who the fuck other people want us to be. Like, we are here to be separate selves,
Mm-hmm.
Or here to do both. That's a shaman, walk between worlds. We all have that ability. Walk between worlds, dance between the worlds. That's what the spirits want to say. Play with me, dance between the worlds. So you go in as one substance, you unravel, you separate your past, you go in to have this, you question everything. This is the quick sped up process. I have a free video on my website about this process of soul alchemy. It's totally free. It's like 30 minutes. Highly recommend it. And you separate your pieces out, and then you question everything. You call it the dark night of the soul, call it soul contraction, call it chaos, but everything's up in question. Who am I? The foundation of your identity starts to shake, and you're having a life-changing moment right now. And you might be throwing shit at the walls, like crying and sobbing. Who knows? That's when the separation occurs, when you go in pieces and you separate it out. And this is a real simplified version. And then essentially, you come back together as a new substance. You take all your pieces back. First, what you do is you purify each piece. You heal. You breathe. You call a friend. You talk it through. You walk through it. You explore it. You surrender to the dark night or the void. And you start to explore in that. And then the pieces and the parts get purified back to their original state. The delusion dissolves in this cocoon. And then you put yourself back together. You come out of your cocoon and you a daggone butterfly. Now you're a different animal. So that's alchemy in a nutshell. Like a nutshell. So your question, my love, was, the soul spirit. So this is really, really cool topic that I find super helpful, just exploring what each of these mean. And if you study Reiki, you'll study something similar. So it's connected to Reiki and shamanism as well. There's a lot of connections. Take a breath here. So your ego is your human spacesuit. Its job is to keep you alive. It knows fear and pleasure. It makes you look across the street. It's connected to your identity. It holds together your identity, for better or for worse. It holds together who you are so you don't go berserk. And it's the glue.
Mm-hmm.
And your ego's job is to keep you alive. And if we lead our lives from the ego, we're going to play safe and probably have regrets. If we're leading from the ego, we're probably going to stomp on others. What's that quote? It's like the ego is a great buddy. I think it's like servant, but let's say buddy, but not a very good leader. I changed the quote. Yeah, anyways. So your ego literally gives you the experience of separation. Thank you, God, for my ego, because I get to fall in love, because I get to experience the variety of emotions. The ego is so sacred and holy that it's when it's leading, does it lead us wrong or lead us off course or whatever. It's literally the human body. It's the bones. It's your earth. It's your experience of being separate from the tree. Ego is, some people call it the illusion, the Maya of separation. Yet I'm exploring that it's very real. It's just one layer of who we are. And it's connected to, in the koshas, I think Preston beautifully shared about the koshas, the Annamaya kosha, which means the food body. It's literally what we nourish ourselves with. Anna means food. So the ego is so sacred and beautiful, and it just wants to keep you safe. That's its task. So if it's leading your life, it's going to lead you safe. It's going to lead you to the same action over and over and over and over, because it knows there's no tiger there. So it's going to keep in the same pattern, for better or for worse. I love you, ego. Now, the soul is the invisible blueprint to your spiritual, to your whole life. This is shamanism. This is shamanism's domain, is the soul. The soul is the great story keeper of everything that you are. Your wounds, your karma, your gifts, your ancestral curses, and your ancestral gifts. It is the invisible blueprint that created your body. She's coming here to learn how to experience divine love. So we're going to set her up with a experience where she doesn't know love. And that is how she is going to remember divine love, by stepping out of divine love to wake up to it. It's the blueprint to a house, for example. It's the map to our lives. It's the invisible story keeper. What a cool way to talk about that. And shamanism, specifically the shamanism that I'm trained in, is about soul healing. It says you don't have to live that out. You can write your own story. It says you can download the frequency of self-worth into your soul. So when we do soul healing, we actually go into the blueprint of who we are and upgrade the blueprint. So we are literally taking out dis-ease and we are putting in pure source energy. So the soul is everything that you are and everything that you'll be and everything that you were in an energetic space. We each have a different soul. We each have a different ego. So your soul is unique to your lifetimes, your past. If you jive with past lives, it's the story keeper of all of them. We each have different soul gifts that we're here to unearth. And then the spirit is essentially God. And there's a humor here. I love this. Buddha says, once you remember the truth, you'll tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. Shamanism says, once you remember who you are, there's a rumbling laughter over the mountaintops. Perhaps this journey of forgetfulness was written. Perhaps we know the day we're going to die. Perhaps we know who the next partner is we're going to meet. Yet in shamanism, there's this thing that's called keeping a secret from yourself. If you're connected to God, if you're one with God, if the temple is within you, you are all-knowing. You have access to all-knowing. Yet what's the fucking fun if you know everything? So we keep those secrets from ourselves. Ha ha. The mystery is holy. So many of us are used to seeing with our eyes, but there's this other world where we get to feel our way through and dance and celebrate and just go into, it's like if you want to go into the spirit world, your mind's going to take you to the door, but you got to dance your way in. You got to get rid or not get rid of, but get beyond analyzing. And raise y'all's hand if you have a strong mind. I mean, the spirits have literally trained me and are training me to play into your power, to switch into psychic awareness. So the spirit is freaking everything, everywhere, everyone, forever. We all have one spirit. Go ahead.
I guess you just answered what I was going to ask. Would you say, like, our soul and our ego, we all have a different one, but from your perspective, spirit is the same, and it's the same spirit that flows through you, through me, through the birds, through the trees, and it's about just tapping into that through your own soul and through your own ego, and that's how you kind of meld. You make your own little smoothie from that blender.
Exactly. One spirit medicine. My teacher wrote a whole book, One Spirit Medicine. That's the idea, yes. And the other idea is when you change something at the level of spirit or soul, you shift everything about who you are and your actions in your life. So many of us, we want change. So we move the couch around. So we move this around. So we get a new job. So we get a new partner. And then we come to realize that's the same damn person with a different face who has been there. When we go into the blueprint, we change something for good. Straight up. It's okay, if you want to Google at some point, who's ever watching this, Robert Dilt's hierarchy of change. Spirituality is at the top, environment is at the bottom. Everything that happens up at the top shifts everything through the whole pyramid at the bottom. And my teacher would say, it's like putting a thumb in the base of a river is like trying to move your physical world around in order to receive epic change and transformation. Let me just get a new job. Let me just do this. All that's fine. But without the deeper identity shift and soul shift, you might just be in a loop. So doing that is like putting a thumb at the base of the river. But going to your beliefs, your identity, your why, looking at that, asking the question. You don't even have to have an answer. Why did I come here? What's most important to me? If you identify that and go on that quest, how you move is going to be different. Who you attract is going to be different. Doing that type of practice, going into the soul, going into the why, now you're putting a thumb at the top of the river. Everything flowing down is shifted. And that's energy medicine.
Right. So if you're trying to work on a big change, like, right, say you're going into a painful pattern you have and you want to rewrite your story, how can ego start to blend and work with spirit? Like, okay, ego's trying to change the job or the external things. How can spirit and ego start to become friends and talk in that process? And then how can soul and spirit start to come together and talk in that process to create change? Like, how can we notice those parts and form a relationship with them that where we're communicating clearly with one another, like seeing it as a cycle of communication?
Sure, I'll do my best with that one. It's a beautiful question. And I would just like to remind the listeners that create your own beliefs about reality. You know, if something I say or you say or whoever say doesn't jive, write your own beliefs about reality. That's what this is about, is being a dreamer, creating your own way. So with that, you know, we are here to be visionaries. So your life is guided by your vision. Small vision, small life. Upgrade your vision, whole new life. Many of us settle for different reasons. I don't want to say many, some people, for different reasons. They're comfortable. I'm born to push the edges a little bit. And sometimes spirit's like, get comfortable, relax, because it's all about balance. It ain't all about pushing edges, rising Aries right here. You know what I'm saying? So I would say go to your vision. Your vision is guiding your entire life. Go to your vision. What are you dreaming? Dream happiness. Dream a stage you're meant to sing on. Dream more money. Dream a business. The idea is to know your dream, expand your dream, because again, everything is followed by and directed by your greater vision. And you can close your eyes and say something like, I want you to acknowledge who you're becoming next. Give yourself that command. I want you to acknowledge who you're becoming next. Take a deep breath, have the vision. What's the next version of me? What are they wearing? Spirit God, I want to dream bigger. I want to dream bigger. Write a letter to the universe. What dream did I come here to dream? Evolve your vision. And get stubborn about it. Get clear on it. And then your soul is about downloading that vision from the spirit into it. I like ritual, lighting a candle, stepping into sacred space. I could talk 30 minutes about sacred space, but we'll just for the time purposes. Spirit, bring this through in a really simplified way, please. So you can sit down, light a candle, put on an outfit that makes you feel powerful. It matters, says the rising Aries. And then have a conversation with God or the universe. What vision do I want to bring through? And let me download that into my soul with some beliefs, with some images. Ooh, now I can feel it. Now I can see it. Oh, I want a soulmate partner. How do I feel in their presence? Now I can see them. So now you're creating a vision. You're creating beliefs. So it's like a process of creation. You're not just accepting what the fuck is thrown at you. You're creating it. You're co-creating it. And then you're downloading new beliefs. And then you're, ooh, what colors do this future self wear? And know this, who you're becoming is not more worthy than who you are now. Hierarchy is BS. There's no better than worse than. It's just false, from my understanding. It's unhelpful. So you can track who you're becoming. Who am I becoming? And then start to download the images and the stories. Now you're reprogramming your subconscious, because the subconscious speaks in terms of images and symbols. This is hummingbird medicine. Images and symbols. The visions you hold become your life. The symbols and the images and the emotions that you're most currently practicing, you're creating. So I wish more people would spend time fantasizing, straight up. I wish more people would spend time daydreaming and crafting a reality that they fucking love, believing in it before they see it. And invoking the power so that they're fueled with spirit. Now, that's a powerful person. If you're in alignment, because honestly, spirit's going to come and invite you to, speak on stage or, oh, go do this or go. It's the calling in us. I'm going to start a podcast, says Holly. Yay, you're a rock star at this. You thrive in this. You answer the call. And then the ego's job is to walk it out. Move as such. And let me share one more thing, because we're coming close to time, is that put your spirit, put God first, put your soul first, put your highest self first. Know who's leading your life. Know who's leading your human. Because if we don't put that first and we don't put our psychic shields up, it don't happen by accident. I don't walk out of that house without a little shield, psychic shield, you know what I'm saying? People say, oh, do you see spirits here? I'm like, you think I have my gifts turned on? I don't have time for that. That sounds draining, to have my gifts blasted open all day. And I laugh and say something nice. I'm like, I don't see anything. I don't turn my gifts on all the time.
I want to give voice to something you said earlier. Like, a lot now you're just talking about what sounds very similar to like the power of manifestation, how we're co-creating our reality, the capacity we have to be in control of the life we live, not just victims that we think things are just happening to us, right? We have agency in this life. Yeah. And simultaneously, what you said earlier, it's not about, if what I'm hearing you say is correct, it's not about just like, I feel like shit, but I'm going to write in my journal that everything is great all the time, and I'm just going to envision everything being great all the time. That's a part of it, but it's also about being willing to go into that darkness, into that depth of it, because that's how we can truly heal and connect to this oneness. And again, like we said before, like meeting all of our parts, loving all of our parts, because they're a part of creating that reality of what you want. That pain is a part of your purpose and stepping into it. So we can't deny it. And the way I have just been envisioning you in this conversation, like we said earlier, like, don't go into your darkness alone. Like, do this work with a therapist, with someone who can support you in the process. And I just picture you as kind of like a buddy, like you said before, with a flashlight, who's like going to go down into the deep cave with you and like find what's down there. So if someone wants you to be their buddy as we're like trying to do this work, so we're doing it safely, we're doing it with support, we're not doing it on our own, how can people connect with you and explore with you together?
Totally. Thank you, love. Thank you. Thank you. So the only thing that I am offering right now, wild to say it, is the Winged Alchemy membership. That's becoming the pinnacle of my legacy on this planet.
Awesome. I'll make sure all of the links to stay connected with you and support you in your work and work with you are in the show notes. So be sure to check it out.